Welcome back to the Create Your Shape podcast. Today I have a Create Your Shape superstar, Anna. I'm going to say your last name wrong. How do you say it?
Regret.
Negret. And Anna, I feel like, is the perfect example of being an overachiever in all areas of her life, and we'll get into that. And then specifically with fitness and nutrition, I think it's the perfect example of doing more, doing more, doing more, where to take it to the next level, like she couldn't have done more than she was already doing. She really needed the science in the strategy. And sometimes we call this like missing the forest for the trees. However, we would never know that, right? Because we're doing all the things that we've been told or we hear about, especially in mass media. So if we never know about it, right, then of course we wouldn't know what that next step looked like. And so, I mean, you've done both my Create Your Shape program. We've coached in one-on-one. Now you're in my alumni membership. And you, I feel like, are just such a perfect example of a lot of times people, when they have that like missing the forest for the trees, it's really hard to get out of that because just want to keep doing more and be better at what you were already doing. But I feel like you ran into some obstacles and some roadblocks, which every person does. That's part of it. But instead of just kind of stopping at that obstacle, you said, wait a minute, wait a minute. I see how this is not working. I'm going to double down in whatever, whether it was like the education or the mindset or like strategy, whatever it was, you're like, I'm going to double down. I'm going to figure this out and I'm going to make it work. And you did that again and again and again with this like persistence, which is amazing, which has gotten you to where you are now with a very successful deficit phase, but even more important, maintaining that with your lifestyle and enjoying different foods and vacations and all of that while building muscle. So you've created an incredible shape. But we'll get into all of that and how you did that. But first, I want you to introduce yourself so you can tell the audience more about who you are, where you're from, what you do for your career, where kind of paint the picture of yourself.
Sure. So I am Anna Negrete. I am from Arkansas, born and raised, so from the South. And I am married. We have been married for 11 years, but we are high school sweethearts, so been together for almost 18 years now. We have two fur babies, no children. And I am a civil engineer by day. It's my full-time job. And by night, I am a fitness instructor at a local fitness facility nearby. Um, we love to ride our bikes as much as we can. Arkansas has a ton of amazing trails. So in a perfect world, we're riding our bike to the gym, working out, doing our stuff, and then riding back home. And we're also really involved in our church. We lead a small group of 20-ish people, so we have a lot of time that goes to that as well. So we're just really busy people. And like I said, I'm from the South, so I am a foodie through and through to the heart of it, which I find hilarious. You're now experiencing. I'm like, it's about time. Welcome to the dark side. So,
Yes.
yes. So that has been an adventure. And I love my family, but we have no nutrition knowledge whatsoever. Didn't get raised on any of that. I was always a super skinny kid because I was really active and outside and everything. And so my mom was like, yeah, she's skinny. It's fine. Do whatever. And so being involved in sports and stuff kind of covers a lot of those flaws because you just, eat whatever. But then once I got to college and got done playing college volleyball, I kind of still ate like I was playing college volleyball, which caught up to me very quickly. So I've been through a couple of different weight loss journeys and just never really fully solved it until meeting you. So, but I'm sure we'll talk more about that. So,
Yeah, and to kind of give the audience an idea, I would say like when I first met you, like I would say like to anybody on the street, but yeah, she's healthy. Yeah, she's got some muscle, right? And so I want to emphasize that because it's not like you had like 50, 100, pounds to lose. Like you were already like in healthy shape and you're like, wait a minute. This is how I would describe it. You can you can describe it in your own words of how when I met you that it felt like you were like, wait a minute, I'm a fitness instructor. Like I train multiple like classes per day.
Mhm.
We ride our bikes all the time. Like I'm super active. Like I'm smart. I don't eat like an asshole. Like why don't I look as fit as I feel
Yep.
like I am?
Mhm.
Is that how you would describe it, or tell us in your own words how you would describe it?
Yeah, I would absolutely describe it that way. I think I'm someone who like she could probably kick my butt, but she doesn't look like super tone, you know? And so yes, I think you're spot on.
And when you before like right before you joined Create Your Shape, where were you at in terms of like what specifically like pain points were you experiencing that that made you be like, okay, yeah, I want to join this.
So it was just a lack of accurate knowledge and truly just thinking that I was a special case, that something was wrong with me. I'm really successful in other areas of my life, but for some reason, I was not going to be able to look how I wanted to long term. Like I was just special and it just wasn't going to happen because to your point, I was doing all the things. So what's the problem?
Yep. And is there anything that you remember being like, oh, it's because of this. This is like a thought or a belief or like something about nutrition that you're like, this is what I needed to do at in the moment, or were you kind of just like, I've tried all the things and I don't know what it is now?
I think for me, my thought process was that I just had to be super strict all the time to be successful, and that I was, a failure for having cravings of bad foods and wanting them all the time. And again, I was just broken. There was just fundamentally something wrong with me, is where I was at.
Yeah. And when you were like, is there something that you would do with nutrition that you look back on now and you're like, oh, I would never do that again? Like anything you were like eating or like not eating or like anything like that?
I think just generally, I was like a lot of females, and I would just like copy what other people would do for nutrition wise or recipes that they say would be, successful in getting you skinnier and, just eat that, even though I didn't like it. So I think the worst example I have in my life was from like sixth or seventh grade from the Special K cereal era. I'm not sure if you remember
Oh,
if
I remember. It's delicious.
yeah. Well, it was all the rage, and somehow it came about that, if you just eat Special K all day for every meal, you would be skinny, and so I fell into that, and that didn't last very long. But I look back and I'm like, that was really dangerous, actually. Like, that was not safe to do. So just, yeah, that's the worst example I have. But
That is hilarious. I guess I do remember that it was a diet, but I just remember having it like the strawberries and yogurt kind
mhm,
because being like, oh, this is so good. I love
yeah,
it, but I don't remember it being like that. You only eat this and you lose weight, which is crazy to think about now.
yeah, it is.
Yeah, marketing. Well, they have crazy ways to market.
Gotten worse, not better.
Yeah. So is there like what did you think like when you joined Create Your Shape, did you think like, oh, this is what I like need to do in terms of like a certain strategy or something that you were like missing? Or I know you had listened to a lot of the podcasts. I actually think you reached out and you were like, actually, I just binged all of your podcast or I think someone who said you started from the beginning.
Yes.
And I love that because that means you probably learned so much of what I was already gonna teach.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's so
Yeah,
good.
I think for me, some things that I thought that I needed to do before the program was again probably standard for most females was that I just needed to work harder in
Yeah.
every area, especially the gym. Just needed to do more and somehow do all of that and do more with as little calories as possible, which was miserable. I think for everyone involved who tries to do that, it's very miserable, and your body tells you like, I don't like this, but we try to just keep pushing past it and work harder and be better, is where I was at.
Yeah, I relate to that so much. That's exactly where I was. And even with your story of like growing up and family of foodies. I mean, that was my family as well, but like you said, like we were just so active that it worked out until it didn't work out.
Yeah.
So I get all of that. Was there something that you were afraid of, like when you joined? I know for a lot of people, it's like, okay, wait, I really need to eat more. That doesn't sound right. Like I'm gonna gain all this body fat. Or was it something different for you?
I think for me, what I was afraid of was that I couldn't sustain it, whatever the it was, right? Before
Mhm.
I got into the program, I didn't really know every nuance of it, but it was just something that I couldn't sustain, that it would be another failed calorie deficit or diet that I would mentally not survive, or that it, would just be a wasted investment, that like it's just another waste of time or money. And that was my biggest fear.
Yeah. Okay, let's kind of get into that because when we first started the program, right, I feel like you learned a lot and you were getting like this new information, but it probably was kind of flipping things on its head where it's very different than this like strict like okay, do this for a little bit and then go back to what you're doing before. But the first deficit, I remember you got it, you understood it, and you crushed the deficit, like
Hmm.
check, 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 and did amazing. And even like leading up to that, right? Of just getting your like the foundations down that I teach in, like optimizing macros. Like you did great there. And even from that, I remember seeing like some like physique changes there, and then you really changed in the deficit phase. And then so first let's kind of start there because that was the kind of like your first round of the strategy. And so during that, like, do you remember what that felt like? Or the whole time were you just like, I'm gonna master this and then go back to what I was doing before? Or where were you at kind of like mentally there?
I think mentally, once you put money down, like I'm in,
Yeah.
and I'm committed. Like I'm not gonna lose my money. I'm gonna get something out of this. Which I had done that kind of before. And so again, I think I had expressed like I'm not super worried about the deficit piece of it. Like I can crush that. It's the rest of my life piece, right? It's the maintaining my weight. That's where I'm like, that is where I have failed time and time and time again. That's where I was terrified, was the long run. So
Yeah. And I remember you like some of your check-ins being like, oh, I don't have to question if like what I'm doing, especially early on as we were like talking about like being well fueled and getting enough food in. Like I don't have to question if I am doing this right or not doing right. Like I understand like the science now of what I actually need to fuel my workouts and to be well fueled. And so I feel like there's this part where and I do have a podcast on this. You probably remember it. It's like the 80% versus the 20%. And so when I see somebody, I can see it's like, okay, the 80% is so much of the work and you want to get that right. But still the 20% at this level is going to determine like what that actually looks like. And so let me give an example for everyone who's listening. The 80% is like, okay, what are like your actual day-to-day consistency like with macros? Are you getting in the carbs you need? Are you getting in the protein you need? Are you getting it in like around your workouts intentionally? Are you on an intentional program? Like it's like what you do 80% of the time. And I feel like that is like the first thing that everyone needs to kind of like reevaluate and like get set up. And do you understand why you're doing something? And do you have a strategy in place? Which that is like the first step for sure. But if that 20% is still not like dialed in, and that's where it's like the weekends or the vacations or the like 1 or 2 days here or there that are completely off. And like that is still going to like show up in your results at the end of the day. So I feel like to me, and again, I'd love to hear your kind of experience of this. I feel like the first round, you really got that 80% down and like
mhm.
rewiring a lot, getting the kind of the science of food in place, getting the strategy in place, getting all the foundations down. But the next round when we did it is where you like conquered that 20%. But that's my experience of it. What is your experience of it?
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think probably most people walking in aren't at 0%. They're probably at like maybe 50, 60%.
Yep.
And so that 20%, it's it's super valuable and very important. Because to your point, most of us aren't walking in with 50 to 100 pounds to lose. So we did something right to get
Yeah.
here.
Yep.
It's just we're in that frustrating point of like, why can I not get to that next little piece? And like you said, it's that, we got to that 80% with you. Maybe we're at 50, 60, maybe even 70, but you just don't know what you don't know until you get in. And so, and then, yeah, I think I don't know, maybe I'm at 95 now or something, I would hope. Hopefully coming around 100. But like you got to really go through life. You got to face things. It's not just like, oh, let me just listen to a few podcasts and then I'm good for life. Like you have to face things and have someone to be like, this didn't work. And what do I do?
Yeah. Oh,
Until
that's
you can
so.
really figure it out.
Yeah, and I feel like you were the queen of that because this is where I said a lot of people will just get a piece of information and be like, okay, I'm gonna do it. Oh, I didn't work, or oh yeah, I just need to do better, right? Oh, I just need to work harder. Where you were like, okay, I see, and this is what I teach a lot of too, right? I see this specific problem, and now I need to work on the solution. But to your point, it doesn't just happen, right? You have to experience it. You got to go on that vacation and practice it, and you got to get better, and then you have to evaluate, and then you got to come up with different ideas, and then we got to do other things. So a perfect example of this is, I think of two things: the vacations. I remember the first vacation after your deficit, you came back and you're like, wait a minute, I'm super inflamed. I think I've gained some body fat back, right? And then every vacation after that, you went into it like you were like tackling a college course where you're like, okay, wait, I'm going to prepare for it differently. We're gonna like coach on this and work ahead. We're gonna come up with solutions. You like list it out. Here's everything I'm gonna run into. But it wasn't like okay, you need to be perfect on this next vacation. It was no, like what obstacles are you running into? And then how can we solve for them so they meet both your physique needs and goals, but also your desires and your wants and I remember, I think the next vacation, we're like, yeah, let's include the dessert, but we're not going to do it like every meal or every day. Like we're maybe it's just after dinner, right? And just being like super strategic with it. And then the second time I remember this is you sharing like, okay, here are things that I'm still desiring in maintenance phase. And we actually started this even before you got to the maintenance phase while you're still in the deficit so we could come up with solutions then. And it was which I hear now all the time from clients. So you might have like started a craze. The Braun ice cream, is that how you say it?
Brahms.
Brahms ice cream.
Hmm.
Um, and you're like, okay, this is something that I want to have in my week. How can we make it work? And then we got really macro savvy to be like, okay, well, what if we did half? Or what if we cut out this and then you add that in? And then we did that thing with Indian food and like all these different types of things that you're like, okay, I still want this in my life. How can we make it work? Which I think is a like amazing question. But then you got to work to actually fit that in. And then you actually did it, right? And then reported back and put it in your check-in. Okay, I did this. This is what I noticed. And so again, this is that work that I feel like the detailed work that people will give up on, but you're like, no, 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 I'm making this work, and you did. Anything that I missed on that like journey that you wanted to add in? Again, this is my experience of it, but you had more color.
Yeah, I think the key thing is we love to travel and we're not going to give up traveling. We're able to do it very cheaply because I'm a fitness instructor. And so that was a big hurdle to overcome is, well, I'm not just going to stop traveling. No, I'm going to keep traveling. And so it was just figuring out, okay, how can we do this and not gain 5 pounds every single time? Because like the rest of us, am so tired of this hamster where you lose the weight and then you just gain it right back from 2 vacations and Thanksgiving, and it's just the same 10, 15 pounds over and over. Like I'm done with this hamster wheel. So how are we going to figure this out? And so it just it took a lot of intention and really conversations and saying it out loud to someone of like, okay, you know what? I really want my alcohol along the trip. And you're like, okay, well, here's how to account for that. And now I'm at a point, I literally don't drink alcohol anymore. I haven't had a drink in months. And I think that's crazy because I remember fighting with you about alcohol. I'm like, I need to fit in 5 drinks a day. And now I'm like, you know what? That wasn't even really what I wanted. I just wanted something fun to drink. So, it's just, you got to think through it, troubleshoot it, explore it because it's not that you can't have what you want. You just need to figure out what you want and plan for it accordingly and just adjust accordingly. Because there's things that you can modify, and there's things like alcohol for me. Apparently, it just needed to die. It didn't need to stick around. It just needed to die. I didn't really want it that bad. I just thought that I did. So,
That's a good point. I had this conversation so many times, and I was the same way too with alcohol, right? And so I remember us being in our like community group and you sharing like, okay, I want to have 5 drinks a night on my vacation. And I get it because I've been there. But then I explained, okay, well, here's what that actually looks like from a science standpoint. It's not me telling you can't. You can, but here's what happens from like the science and the math perspective. And I think I see a lot of times that ladies have to hear that several times, but they really have to experience it, right? They have to take that knowledge, but then see it when they do it, and then see the next day of like, oh, okay, this isn't working. And then go into like, okay, well, is it the alcohol that I want? And this is something I question a lot. Like, is it the alcohol you want? Or yeah, is it, do you want to feel relaxed? Or is it, do you just want to be social? Or is it that you want a good tasting drink, which it sounds like that's the main thing for you. But
yep.
I would say the last like 3 conversations I've had just like this, all of them are like, oh yeah, I don't really drink anymore. Because they realized that between, I guess, the science and the experience of it, and then finding what they really wanted, they were able to like check every box. So that's super common, exactly
Yep.
how you described it.
Yep.
So now, everyone listening, if you're like, oh, that will never be me, again, I see it time and time again. And every
Yep.
person that I speak to at the beginning is like, I would never give up alcohol. And I remember having that thought too. And then suddenly I'm like, wait, when was the last time I drank? You kind of like forget about it. It's
Hmm.
crazy. So, on these vacations too, is there anything else? Because I mean, you're going to Mexico, like you're going to like resorts, like very cool places that a lot of times are buffets, all you can eat. And so I think most people, when you hear that, right, you gotta get my money's worth, or oh my gosh, I can have whatever I want. This is delicious food. I don't have to make it. But I feel like, I mean, the last 2 or 3 vacations you've had maintained no problem at all. And I think one you actually came back lighter. And so I know people are like, how is she doing that? So do you have any like tips or suggestions that you would share?
I think the biggest one is realizing it's all a mind game. And if you can conquer your mind, you can conquer pretty much anything. And I think the biggest thought in the past that would cause me to lose my crap over food and just want to eat and eat and eat is we like to think that like we're never going to have this food again and I'm never going to be at this buffet again or I'm never going to see this dessert again and the reality is that's so false. We have good food all the time, all around us, anytime. And so abandoning that mindset of like, oh, you better eat this because you're never going to have this again. Okay, is this the last vacation you're ever gonna get? Is this or on death row? This is your last meal? No, you're not. You actually have a lot of life ahead of you. You have a lot of food ahead of you, a lot of desserts ahead of you. And so I think just switching that mindset of like it's not special, actually, it's just food. It's just fuel, was the biggest thing that helped me. Now we still enjoy our food, but just getting to a point where you're not taken out every single meal all the time, desserts every single meal, because you can go get ice cream 24 hours a day, at resorts and things like that. But just realizing like, man, this adds up every single time, and this is how I acted. and that's what got me to the place where I was, and that's not where I want to be anymore. Um, let's do a 180. We got to change this. And so we still eat the things that we want to eat, but we are super active the whole time to help because we know it's probably not going to be in a calorie deficit except for that one the whole time that we we want to stay active. And so that's another thing that we do is we are as active as possible. We go on walks along the beach. We play 2 to 4 hours of sand volleyball a day. I'm obviously the one teaching at least two of the workout classes that were there. We also go to the gym. And so, and we love it because we have the time. You have all day. You're on vacation. So we love staying active and doing all the things. And that really helps too. So,
Yeah, that's really helpful. The mindset's such a key piece. And I love how I know you added in our community that I was giving like 4th of July tips, and you added such a good one that you're like, it's not only about the food. Like that's not the main event. And I love that because that was a huge aha for me is that, oh, I don't need to go to an event and just hang out around the buffet table. There's actual purpose besides that here. And I found so much joy in life when I started viewing things that way of like, what's the activity? What's the connection point? Like what else do I want to experience here? Have you found that is the same for you that you're like, oh, I actually enjoy all these different things that I wasn't like I was missing before because it was all about the food. Is there anything like that for you?
yes, and I think every kind of big gathering that we have, whether it be with my family or the small group or things like that, before my mind was just so consumed with eating more that I wasn't even paying attention to like the community and the conversation and family and things like that. So now I find that it's so much more enjoyable because it's not stressful. It's it's fun and it's peaceful. And I find that I get so much more out of the events because I'm not just focused on how much food I can eat. It's focused on like who's sitting right across from me. Hey, how was your day? Hey, I haven't seen you in 6 months. Like, what's going on? And it's so much more meaningful. Food is like 20 seconds and it's gone. And then what, versus conversation and being around people or the game or the activity that's much longer lasting than 20 seconds in my mouth. So,
Yeah, oh, that's such a good example. And you really tied it nicely with the like satisfaction you get from both
yeah.
of those and how one is just so much bigger. Yeah, that's a really good example. Do you find that family has backed off at all? Because I know for most, when you go to change your habits, how much you're eating, how much you're drinking, what you're eating, what you're drinking, all of that, says stuff and they'll comment and even going out to dinner, right, and requesting something different. A lot of people struggle with that, but that is a necessary part of changing these habits. Did you have any like family things like that, any comments? And if so, like how did you handle it and how is it now?
Maybe there was probably a couple small comments here and there of like, oh, well, you don't eat that anymore or whatever, but they were so short-lived that it didn't really have an effect. I think my most recent example was eating with my family for Mother's Day. We went out to a Mexican restaurant in Kansas. That's where my whole family lives. And I've been to this restaurant before and I know how to order there with creating my plate and all of the things. And so I kind of created something because like if it's on the menu, you can put it on a plate for me, right? It doesn't have to be exactly like that entree how it sits. And so I created, an entree and it comes out and my family, they all look at it and they're like, you know what? We're just gonna let you order for us from now on because that looks really good. Like they were jealous of like
Mhm.
what I had created because it looked so good and yet it fit, it checked all the boxes and everything. And I'm like, sure, like I'll order for you anytime. So it's almost gone the opposite direction of people trust, my instinct and they see, well, it's working for her. So it's been a really positive experience.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, that's amazing. And I feel like too, like you're a naturally like bold go-getter person. So, at least from my experience, so I find that people tend to like make a transition, like a social transition easier because being bold like is a characteristic that I think you have to create this shape that is so different than the average American and our average families.
Hmm.
So kudos to you on that too.
Yeah.
So let's talk about, is there anything like that surprised you in Create Your Shape or anything that was different than you expected? Create Your Shape or like, pretty much the whole, my Create Your Shape in one-on-one, very similar. Like I teach the same things. I coach the same. It's just different levels, but anything that you wanted to call out that as a surprise or different than you expected?
So I think first coming in, the biggest surprise was that I needed to eat more. One of the first things I heard in your podcast was that we have to make sure that we're eating enough and that most of us need to eat more. I was like, say no more. I'm in. I'm I'm down. Because I'm a foodie. I'm from the South. My family, we're the best cooks in all of the land. Still stand by that. But we have literally no knowledge on nutrition whatsoever. And, most of my bloodline is overweight. So I was excited to say the least, to hear someone say, hey, you need to eat more. That was the biggest surprise to me.
Yeah, and on that note, you're fairly tall and you work out several times a day teaching classes, right? In addition to your own training. And so I think you started at like 2100 when you came to me. And I immediately knew that wasn't enough. And I think we worked you up, I'm gonna have your dashboard here to like 2600 calories. So almost like
Mhm.
500 calories more per day. And didn't gain any weight, any body fat. Tell me what that was like for you.
It was marvelous. Again, coming in with the mindset of trying to eat as little as possible and whatnot. I think before I truly started listening to you, I probably was more around the 14 or 1500 calorie range. Um,
Girl,
and
it
then
hurts
you
my
were like,
ears.
hey, you need to, over and over, you would say like, oh, minimum 1900, maybe even 2100 calories. Like before I even sent you an email, I was like, it looks like I need to eat some more. So I think I had already been building myself up before I got to you. But it was just great. My body was like, thank you. You've been working me real hard. It's about time you gave me some fuel to run you off of. So it was great.
Yeah, amazing. And then I don't know, did you at that point, did you notice any difference in your workouts or in your training or just in your day to day?
Um, I think I just felt so much more powerful, rather than running on fumes and like being exhausted. Granted, probably wasn't training properly. I know now probably wasn't lifting heavy enough because I didn't know any better. But even then, just like running on complete fumes. And I remember having specific thoughts of like, I don't think it's supposed to be this hard. Like, why is this so hard all the time? And it was because I was very, very underfueled.
Yep. Yep. And then we could go into a deficit at that, like I think 2000-ish calories, like around there, which that wouldn't have been possible if you were only eating, 2100. So again,
Yeah.
going back to being like well fueled. Let's talk about the training too, because you mentioned that, okay, now that I know what I do with training, and so how has your training approach changed? I don't think I'll ever get you off of your all of your cardio classes, but it's still, even with that, I know it's drastically changed from the beginning too.
Yeah, I still remember the specific day where we were meeting as a group where you were telling us about training and you said, we're doing 3 sets and every single set needs to be to failure every time. And the whole class was like, every time or just at the, you're like, no, every set is to where like you're pulling and you can't pull anymore. And we were all like, oh, like I remember all of us were like, yeah, that's not what we're doing. Like at all. But we're all pretty strong people, and so it feels like we're doing something and like we're working, but to failure every single set, like oh no, I wasn't even coming close to that. I was strong, but not to failure on every exercise every time. No, not even close.
Yeah, that's such a perfect example of that, like 80% versus 100%,
Hmm.
which, yeah, to your point, like people are in that like 50 to like, 70, 80% range. And then I've been like, you guys are all like, obviously you would be the star student in any class you take. You're the teacher. Like you have the basic form down, like you have overall strength there. And I've loved reviewing like everyone's training videos, and I've loved reviewing yours because we can get so detailed and like so specific, and you can be like, "Oh, I'm feeling it here. Oh, this one actually I feel it in my back and I shouldn't." Like just the fine tune things so you feel confident going to failure, but then also you're working, like we're getting everything out of these like few seconds of these reps in this set to be more efficient with your time because you don't have all the time to add in like lifts and training as with most people. And so we want to make it like most efficient and effective for like every rep. And to your point, like, yeah, you're already strong. You already have the basics down, and then it's just fine tuning to get to that next level, which again, I feel like you
Hmm.
did such a good job at because you're so coachable, you're like hungry for the information, and then you go back and you implement it, and then you come back with
Hmm.
questions, right? So anything else you want to add there? I mean, I feel like you've done such a good job learning like how the whole strategy of training works and then actually implementing it, but implementing it that also pairs with your current lifestyle and enjoyment in coaching that you do as well.
I mean, I'm super busy. I have the tightest schedule you've ever seen. So to your point, I don't have a lot of time to waste. And so it needs to be efficient and it needs to be like everything that I'm doing is a benefit to me. And so that was super key of like, okay, is this the muscle? Because I was doing exercises that didn't really benefit the muscle that I wanted. So it's like, oh, I guess I should do something for glutes if I want glutes, you know?
Yeah.
So things like that. And it was super beneficial also, like when I did start to do the glute exercises, there was one, the hip bridge on the hip bridge machine, it was hurting my back and sending you the video, like, well, here's why. And so I fixed it. And then my back didn't hurt anymore. I was like, oh, well, thank you. Because I probably just would have abandoned ship and went to do something else. But it was just a little form change that I never would have saw without help. So it's been great.
Yeah, and to your point, like we don't know what we don't know. And I like know you're always thinking like to your point of the schedule change, you're always thinking like how can I be more efficient with my time? And so this was the other week you said like, "Oh, I like changed up my training, my lifting so I didn't have to like wait in between." And I was like, oh, wait, all of this actually matters, like all these little details and like the time it takes in between and the like circuit versus actually like the order that we had initially had it, like all these little details like do matter. But again, you would never know that because we're never taught this, right? And so in your mind,
No.
you're like, okay, how can I be the most effective with my time to like get better? Where actually it's like, ooh, I didn't know these little details were actually not helping versus like what I could implement to be actually more efficient with my time would be what's more effective of the to do this exercise. So there it's like endless, right? There's
Hmm.
always so many little details, but again, I can't emphasize enough like unless like you're never going to know this, but bringing it up and asking the questions and doing what you do of sharing like, okay, I want to change this or I want to do this because of this like you're just not going to know.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's get into some of the changes that you've noticed. Let's start with your physique first. Create your shape, obviously, is the main goal people come to me with, and we do. I like to say, like, okay, that's like, yes, we do that, but it's so much more important of the other things we do first, or in addition to that, what are some of the physique changes that you've noticed?
Um, Definitely my arms are a big one and my shoulders are huge for me. Obviously, going through the deficit phase helps all areas because again, we're all pretty strong, but I feel like I've had this layer on top of, all the muscles that kind of hide it from being seen. So going through two deficit phases now have been significant to my physique just overall, just trimming out that top layer of fat. And then for me too, I have a pretty even storage of fat, I feel like, between my stomach and my butt, fortunately. And so I've kind of tried to get ahead of that because most of our butts that are probably fat. And so as you lose that, your butt's gonna get smaller. So I'm trying to stay ahead of that, of working my glutes so that as I go through more deficit phases, then it starts to come off, that maybe it'll just stay the same. Because that's definitely what happened to me when I went through one of my weight loss journeys a few years ago, is I had nothing. There was nothing there. And so I know that that's what will happen. So I'm trying to literally just keep what I have by pushing muscle out, trimming fat off, and it'll hopefully even out. But
Yep. And as we age too, of course, we are like steadily decreasing muscle mass unless we're lifting and progressing, right? To
Mhm.
like offset that. In addition, we could obviously gain more than even offsetting it. I mean, yeah, when I look at your comparison photos, it's like everything has just been like lifted, and then like it's like you're longer and leaner, but everything's like perkier. Like you can see like the round shoulder
Mhm.
caps, right? You can see the round glutes, that like there's a
Mhm.
separation between your glutes and your hamstrings, and then you can see the hamstring line. You can see on the side photo like your, I call it the turtle shell, where your like abs are like separating. So yeah, you look just like strong, fit, lean, and now let's talk about the knowledge and the understanding that going along like with the creating your shape. I feel like this is like my mission, is to also give ladies like you who are like smart, you're capable, like you're doing so many things, to be empowered with like making decisions with nutrition, but also understanding like how it works and why you would do something. So what is your biggest notice or like takeaway there?
So I think for me, I'm just not really swayed by different opinions or social media now and wondering if I'm really doing the right thing. I'm so confident in exactly what I'm doing and what my plan is, which frees up so much mental energy and stress. Because it's just so stressful wondering, like, is this really supposed to be this hard? Why am I not succeeding in building what I want? And then this person posts this video, and oh, well, that's why, because I'm not doing. And so uh, it is so exhausting being in that place. And so just having a solid foundation of, I know exactly when my body's doing what it's doing. I know how to get it what I want it to do, and I know why and how. So that's been huge.
Oh my gosh, that makes me so happy to hear, because yeah, that is the mission. And like we've talked about, like you have other things going on in your life. You like have family and social and biking, and you have vacations, and you have like your teaching and your career, and to like have that mental space freed up to not only be like confident in this one area and like have this awesome shape that you have, but then to have all that mental space to go achieve everything else that you're like working on. Ah, makes me so happy. So, along with that, there's obviously like the strategy and the science and the knowledge, but then it's implementing it into your life, which again, I can't emphasize enough like how like persistent you are at that. Which I wish like everybody had that same mindset. What is your biggest takeaway when it comes to creating your nutrition routine?
That I know exactly what it takes to fuel my body for any workout or set amount of time. And I know, what will sit well, what won't. And I just feel so much more, again, we kind of touched on it, but I feel so much more powerful in every workout because I am fueling my body appropriately versus just trying to survive on the smallest amount of calories possible. Um, and for me, I choose my food and my plan and what I want. I'm not eating stuff I don't like. So your classic saying of if you don't love your food, you're doing it wrong is so true. Because you have to find what you like, because I think most people probably genuinely like a lot of healthy food, but they just never found it. There's so many recipes that I've tried and completely threw them in the trash because that's not going to work. So just because you or someone throws something out there doesn't mean you have to like it. Find what you like because there's so much good food that's out there that it really just gets so much easier over time. You don't have to sit there and be like, oh, should I get the chicken fried steak? You're not getting that. You know you're not. You know you like the grilled chicken and whatever. So that's been big.
Yeah. Yeah, exploring different options and knowing that it's not just like, okay, I either get what I want or I have to eat healthy. It's like, well, no, how can
Right,
I make like healthy, right, still what I want? Because yeah,
right.
there's so many options now. And I don't talk about mindset a lot because I feel like if I advertise mindset, my go-getters would be like, I don't need that. I don't need that. I don't need that. But it is something that we do throughout the entire program. And you've mentioned it a couple of times of how important it is. And I would almost fit this under the routine aspect because having your routine is what is creates consistency. And none of it works unless you have this consistency. And so what has been your like biggest aha when it comes to the mindset changes?
I think that they are so much more powerful than we want to give credit to. Like we want to put all of our power in our muscles in the gym because that's the easy part. Because most of us are just good at that. We're good at working out. We're good at going to the gym. That's probably the smallest piece of the equation, but the mindset and having the power of knowledge is what lasts a long time. Your strength can come and go and ebb and flow as you're probably figuring out right now with with all your stuff. But your mindset, that lasts forever, and that is really what goes everywhere with you. I don't have a gym in the airport when I'm making a decision. I got to make a decision with my mind, for everything. And so it's huge. It's the probably the most important piece in my opinion.
Yeah, I remember your last check and I actually have it pulled up here and you said like I've been like reflecting on my relationship with food and you said before like going out to lunch or dinner was almost like an overly dramatic situation and felt like I was going to like lose my crap every time because I just wanted everything all the time and couldn't control myself. But this weekend, I found myself truly calm and almost not caring what I had because like it wasn't a big deal, which I think it's a combination of everything that we've talked about of like learning the strategy, learning like how it works, learning how to be macro savvy. But I also think all the mindset that like changes and shifts and like thought changes that you've had too. But do you want to expand on that at all?
Yeah. So again, I'm a foodie at heart. And so, when you go through different diets, most of the time the problem is you're under consuming by a lot and you're creating over desire for a lot of things. And so that can kind of become a permanent piece of your brain is that over desire of like, okay, we're going to go out to dinner. This is your time to go get something that you want. And that can kind of carry over in your life. Um, and I have found that that has kind of just slowly died off of again, you have good food all the time. You don't have to make it dramatic and make it a big deal every single time. It's just another meal. It really is. It doesn't have to be detrimental and oh, I messed up this week and now I gotta start again Monday. Like let's ditch that mindset. Like there's no weekend, there's no days off. It's just all the time. And let's create something that gives you what you want and you don't have to lose your mind all the time.
So good. So good. And then I have two more quick questions. Do you have time for them? Just making sure. Because I know you're on a
Sure.
schedule.
Yes.
Okay.
I've got like
So,
5 minutes.
all right, awesome. So, then you might have just answered this, but I'm wondering, has anything impacted your day to day? Like is like your and I know food ties in so much with our day to day and our families and our activities and like how we dress and everything. But anything that you want to call out that you've noticed that has changed maybe or impacted like things that maybe you weren't expecting.
So for me, my husband has been along for the ride. He was in the same boat, and ironically, we're the same age, but I'm about 4 inches taller than him. So we are actually identical in macros and everything. So he just eats what I feed him every
Amazing.
day. But he's learned alongside with me, and so we're both in this fight together, trying to age gracefully and build strong and healthy bodies. And so I think for us, this knowledge is something that we intend to pass down and build up a strong next generation who doesn't do something like I did as a kid and just eat Special K all day. Like we're not gonna let any of that happen. And so we are just, we want to empower them with knowledge and a foundation so that they can make their own choices of what they want to do rather than feeling lost. And so I feel like that's something that it's like, okay, that movie, This Starts With Me,
Hmm.
totally different scenario, but the nutrition, this starts with us. We're going to get this right and we're going to pass this on. So
Oh man, that is so powerful. Yeah, and you've already mentioned too of how like your family has said like, "Oh, I want what she's ordering," right? Like, and so I feel like people really don't have an idea of like how much they're influencing other people that they don't even realize. And then, yeah, of course, like the next generation, which is so powerful. And so, this was the last question, too, is how you see this impacting yourself long term. And that might be the answer as well, because aging gracefully, like strong, healthy, and having your kid like feeling well fueled as well for their sports, their biking, whatever they want to do is so important. But is there anything else there too?
I think for me, I still have a ways to go to get to exactly what I want to look like, but I can see the exact path that I'm going to take to get there. And it's not about quick and drastic results that you can't maintain nor that are healthy. Like I almost lost all of my hair through one of my weight loss journeys. And looking back, I'm like, well, yeah, because you were eating 1,000 calories a day and you're 5'11". So, that's probably not going to work. Working out 3 times a day. So, um, it's about making it a lifestyle that you're in complete control of. And, with that, I'm just excited for the future. I'm not dreading it. I'm like, oh, well, where's the next deficit phase? I'm like, only 2 weeks until our next episode. Like I'm excited because I know exactly what's going to happen, how I'm going to do it, and then it's not going to be miserable. There's a plan, and it's just clockwork. So
So good. Anything else that you would like to share at all, as we like wrap up everything?
I think just passing on that, I wish this knowledge was something that everyone had because I can see people all around me all the time try and fail at diets, and I can see the exhaustion in their face and the frustration. And, I do everything I can to try and send them your direction because it truly changes the trajectory of the rest of your life. Like, this isn't some like, keto diet that you'll stick to for 2 months and, then you're done. Like, no, this is the rest of your life. And it's not like, oh, let me just give you a couple tips. Like, you got to go through it yourself and you got to try and fail and have someone help get you back up and get you where you want to go. It's so powerful. I wish I would have done it like, how old am I? 34. I wish I would have done it at least 12 years ago. And then it, it would be a very different place in life. So,
I hear you on that. That's definitely the mission of getting this information out there, especially starting with you guys, right? And you, like the like smart go-getter women who are trying, right? And I just want to be like, oh wait, I have this for you. Let's do this.
yeah,
So really nice job on everything you accomplished. I'm so proud of you. And I am so excited for what's next. And as you said, like you're for most of my ladies, including myself and you, like there will always be that next goal, which I think is fun. It's part of it.
yeah.
It's fun to like progress and have this vision to work towards and knowing that you can get there, which is so powerful. So I love that you said that. So congrats on everything that you've accomplished. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story. I know everyone will love it. And everyone else, have a great rest of your week. And I'll see you next week on the Create Your Shape podcast.